When when it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind to Raw with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The A-Team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind to Raw for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind to Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind to Raw. John Pollock and Wai Ting here with you on Monday night. How are you, Mr. Ting?
I'm doing pretty good. Yourself?
I'm doing well. It's been a busy day. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of stuff to discuss off of Raw. I think everybody is double-checking the back of their neck to make sure it's okay from attack. How are you?
That's really funny, yeah. I'm good, yeah. Probably a lot better than Becky Lynch, that's for sure.
I realize I asked you how you were doing twice in a row, but I just wanted to make sure, just to reinforce.
I appreciate that. You can never be too sure.
Well, we don't have a lot of time to waste, so let's get into things. There's much news, but first off, I just want to start off with what we have coming up on the site this week. Such a packed week that I'm pulling up the schedule in front of me. We are very guest heavy this week, Wai. We're going to have a lot of guests on our various shows this coming week. On Tuesday night, it's going to be Wai Ting and Nate Milton that are going to be reviewing Black Panther. Nate will be filling in for me, doing a much better job than I would be doing on this particular film review. But I look forward to listening to this. I had absolutely zero time to watch Black Panther. I'm just going to be fully honest. I did not have 2 hours and 15 minutes available to watch this movie, so I really have no other excuse than that for the reason I will not be on this show.
It's totally understandable, John, and I'm really looking forward to talking to Nate about it. But you have promised us that you will not only catch up by watching Black Panther, but you also have to watch Thor Ragnarok before we do Infinity War next month.
Oh, is that? I understand. So I have to watch both of those before the review that is next month. Okay, that's a lot of movies. I will start now. I'll work on that.
Oh, come on. You get through like 7-hour like wrestling shows. You could fit in a 2-hour movie here and there.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that like the 7 hours of wrestling disappears. It just means that this is in addition to all of that. So I've got a month. I did start Black Panther. And I got like 20 minutes in, and it looks like a fine film. But I realized there's no way I was going to watch and finish this thing by the time the recording would take place. But that will be up Tuesday night for our patrons at the Post Wrestling Cafe. So if you sign up for that, you will grab that show Tuesday night with Nate Milton returning. Wednesday night, we've got our usual shows with Rewind to Dynamite with Wai and I, and Braden Harrington and Davey Portman with Up Next, following the go-home edition of NXT leading into TakeOver Portland on Sunday. We fast forward to Thursday with the Cafe Hangout. We'll be live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for all patrons. And joining us this week is going to be friend of the show, Marcus Vanderburgh. You know him from Yahoo Sports, from the Kings of Sport, everything sports. He is going to be chatting with us on Thursday. We're going to have him on. He's going to talk to us a little bit about how the XFL kicked off this past weekend. And on Tuesday, he's going to be attending the WrestleMania press conference in Los Angeles, which we will get to in the news. So Marcus will share any tidbits from that press conference when he joins us Thursday. I look forward to chatting with Marcus. We've never had him on the Hangout before.
Both Kings of Sport making appearances.
It's a very royal feeling that we've got this week. Friday night, it's Rewind to SmackDown with Wai and I, again, for members of the Post Wrestling Cafe, and we will drop the latest edition this month of Post Pro Res with myself and WH Park and special guest Dylan Fox from the Eastern Lariat podcast. We're going to be chatting about the All Japan show that's going down as we speak, and probably some other notes from that show, the purchase by Cyber Agent of Noah, and whatever else comes up on that. So it's our first Post Pro Res in quite a while. So that will be coming out on Friday. Saturday, we have the Rocky Maivia picture show, and Nate Milton is diving into the Fast and Furious era of Dwayne Johnson kicking off with this Saturday's review.
Awesome. Great.
And he's going to be joined by Joe Lewandowski and Joe 2 from the Too Fast, Too Forever, Fast and Furious podcast. I mean, who better?
Of course, there's a Fast and Furious podcast series. Wow, sounds like you got two experts. I'm looking forward to it.
Like, these seemed like the creme de la creme of guests to chat about Fast and the Furious and the impact, the Dwayne Johnson effect on that franchise. So that drops on Saturday for everybody on the website. And then we wrap up the week on Sunday, where Thunderstruck will drop with W.H. Park and his guest, Will Cooling. And they're going to be chatting Jushin Thunder Liger versus Black Tiger 2, a.k.a. Eddie Guerrero from June of 1996. That should be a really great discussion. And Sunday night, Braden Harrington and Davey Portman are back with the NXT TakeOver Portland post show after the card, and we'll be running through that on the site. So no shortage of great shows this week. Lots of guests coming your way, and you can catch all of it at postwrestling.com and postwrestlingcafe.com for our bonus shows that will be dropping this week.
Sounds great.
Exciting stuff. Let's move on over to the news, because there is, lots of stuff to talk about. We will start off with WrestleMania 37. WrestleMania goes Hollywood way. It was announced on Monday, and there will be a press conference on Tuesday that WrestleMania will be taking place next year on March the 28th from the new SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. It's their first time in the LA market for WrestleMania since 2005. And I don't know if you've seen any of the images of this stadium that is set to open in July, but this thing looks unbelievable.
The art for it looks very impressive. So, really cool. Yeah, I was surprised to hear that it's been that long since WrestleMania was there. So, wow. I'm sure it's. I mean, they've had SummerSlam, but to see it in a stadium that new and that big will be really impressive. What's the capacity?
Well, what's interesting about it is it's like 70,000, but they can expand it so it can hold up to 100,000 people. Like, that's it's kind of like the Saitama Super Arena, that you can like alter it to fit different seating capacities. So they could, in theory, increase the number. It's typically, you throw out the WWE number that they give you every time at WrestleMania, but typically you're talking about in the 62 to 65,000 range of what a WrestleMania is legitimately going to attract in that ballpark, unless it's an outlier.
Right.
So, we'll see what they say at the press conference, but they did mention in the press release that, of course, it'll feature the Hall of Fame, SmackDown, Raw, TakeOver, all the usual fare for next year in Los Angeles, and a warm climate for WrestleMania. So that's always a positive, much like this year's in Tampa. I always prefer warm climates than New York, New Jersey, where you're getting out at 2 a.m. in the rain, still waiting for your bus.
It's always a bonus. Yeah.
Also going down, New Japan has released a bunch of their cards for the month of February. So these include the Tiger Hattori and Manabu Nakanishi retirement shows, as well as the New Japan Road cards. And we won't go through every single card, but some of the highlights this month, starting on February the 19th, that's the Tiger Hattori retirement ceremony. The final match that he will officiate is Tetsuya Naito, Shingo Takagi, and Sonata against Okada, Tomohiro Ishii, and Hiroki Goto. The next night is the New Japan Road Show, and that's going to feature 2 title matches. Roppongi 3K versus Ryusuke Taguchi and Rocky Romero for the junior heavyweight tag titles that was set up in Osaka on Sunday. And the main event way, Shingo Takagi, Tomohiro Ishii for the never openweight title.
It's going to be amazing. Like, he's really burning through all these dream opponents pretty quickly, so I'm surprised that they went to this one so soon, but I guess Shingo's got probably 5 different programs waiting for him. So this run is definitely looking to, I haven't been really this excited for a never title championship in a while. I feel so awesome.
Yeah, putting him in main events of, notable shows. And, this one makes sense with Ishii beating Evil right underneath Takagi's defense against Goto. So the natural match coming out of that show in Sapporo. Then on Friday, February 21st, their next night at Korakuen, it's going to be headlined by the Gorillas of Destiny against Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kota Ibushi for the IWGP tag titles, and the never six-man tag titles with Shingo Takagi, Evil, and Bushi against Ryusuke Taguchi, Colt Cabana, and Toru Yano. Do you see Tanahashi and Ibushi winning these tag titles?
I think I do. Yeah, because
that would add so much life to this tag division.
I think there's that. I don't necessarily see God being kind of ranked above either of them. So I do see a title change.
And then the Manabu Nakanishi retirement card is the last big show of February, happening on February 22nd. That's a Saturday. And Nakanishi's retirement match will be the main event, teaming with Tenzan, Kojima, and Yuji Nagata against Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kota Ibushi, and Hiroki Goto.
Cool. Yeah, going out with your friends against the current crop. Yeah,
it's the dads versus the sons.
Mm-hmm.
So should be a fun 8-man tag, and then a big send off for Nakanishi at the end. Who, knowing New Japan, this guy's going to eat the fall in his retirement.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean that feels right to do, but just the spotlight of like having what I'm assuming will be the main event of that particular show.
Yes,
just having a wonderful goodbye, I think would be really nice.
And then they did confirm that happening on March the 4th, the anniversary card, Tetsuya Naito versus Hiromu Takahashi, which is, for many people, that's going to be the big match over the next couple of weeks. Just a match that we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Brandi Rhodes did an interview on Wrestling Observer Live today and talked pretty in depth about the Nightmare Collective and essentially her removal. Pretty much the end of this character that we pretty much took as the signal last week when she came out to come to Cody's aid during the lashing segment. And she spoke on the show today about kind of the way this angle started. It was pretty much to be just her and Awesome Kong and doing the deal where they would cut the hair. And she pretty much said like Kong physically just was having a lot of problems and they needed to add some bodies, and this thus became this faction at the time, and that's where it grew into. And she said, she was aware of the negative comments a lot of the fan base had towards this angle, and she did not disagree. She was not feeling this angle either. It seemed like there was some other input on the creative front that she didn't seem to be all that on board with, and this kind of was the end of it for her, where they did post a video kind of writing her out of this storyline and kind of just leaving it open-ended about what happens next with Luther and Mel, because it doesn't sound like they are ending those characters, just that Brandi's involvement here is kind of the end of this Nightmare Collective, at least in its current incarnation.
I felt like this was about as close to, an admission that, hey, things weren't really working out as you might have, you're probably going to get. From, I guess, somebody, personally involved in the storyline. And I don't think there's any shame in it at all. In fact, I think it's to be applauded that they're not afraid to cut bait when something isn't working. I think we've seen it with certain things AEW has done. Like, I can't tell you the last time I've seen something involving the Librarians. Even the Dark Order, I feel like they've altered up quite a bit from, I think, all the negativity that came off of that Elite attack. It feels slightly different, and in this case of the Nightmare Collective, it seems like if it's not working out, we move on, and they're listening to their fan base. There's nothing to be ashamed of. What I am curious about is, she mentioned how some of Kong's physical limitations kind of, provided the need to add other members into the group, and it seems like now it's just going to be Mel and Luther together. Kong was written, or at least separated from the rest of the group, but is that it for her? Is she going to be, doing some sort of angle with Mel and Luther? With her physical limitations, how much can she actually do? Well,
Kong was kind of written out to go back and film this last season of Glow, so it's probably, at least for the time being, I don't know what you even bring Kong back to do. If it's a case where she's limited physically and what she can do, I mean, do you just treat this write-off as kind of that's it for Kong?
Yeah, I mean, if there's really no,
there's no angle to come back to.
Has she even had a match?
she's done the occasional match, hasn't she?
She did take like some pretty. I think she might have like done a tag or something. I'm probably wrong, but she probably had at least something. But she did like she took physicality in that angle last week, so I'm sure she could still do a lot, but maybe not enough for like a full program. So yeah, maybe we shall see.
Yeah, it was just interesting to see how putting Brandi out there today in an interview setting and pretty much just addressing it. And, that seemed to be the focus of why she was on the show today, was to address this. She indicated she does not plan to talk about this beyond this interview, which I don't understand why it's such a topic that it's off limits, but whatever.
It's just annoying, I guess, Imagine like something doesn't really go the way that you planned and then having to be like interviewed about it constantly.
I find it to be a really interesting look into like the creative process. Like I would not sense this in a WWE angle where a chief character would go on and just kind of talk about the failing of an angle, which is kind of what this was. It was a failure.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we have? On the AEW front, they've also announced returns to Boston and Philadelphia in April for the April 15th and 22nd editions of Dynamite. These are the first two markets that they are going back to that they ran in October for the second and third weeks after the show launched. In Boston, they had drawn 6,000 people their last time there, and Philadelphia, they drew 9,000. They sold out the venues the last time they were there. What kind of repeat business do you see for Dynamite this many months in, from October and a turnaround in April? Do you see similar demand for tickets? Do you see a softer response to when tickets go on sale?
Initially, I think there's always that first burst of like, this is the first time this thing's going to be here. It's still really hot. But I would argue that it's still a pretty hot product right now. And
especially in the Northeast, like that Newark show was enormous. And I think you're going to see that in these markets too.
They've gotten into the habit of, making special announcements for all of these shows ahead of time. So if they can make it special, if the programs are hot enough, I think they'll do just as well.
So those are happening in April, and the tickets go on sale this Friday for both of those shows. They've also added for Dynamite this week, Dustin Rhodes taking on Sammy Guevara and MJF versus Jungle Boy that they focused on during the Road to Austin video that they put out today. That joins the Eye for an Eye match with Jon Moxley and Santana, and the two title matches with SCU challenging Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, and Riho versus Nyla Rose. And I would say this week, yes, NXT has their go-home edition, but I feel like Dynamite's got a lot set up for this Wednesday. And I think the Moxley-Santana match, they did a really great job last week of setting that up. That's the show that I feel has the big buzz this week by a long margin.
The two main programs for Revolution, I think, are really heating up very well in Moxley and Jericho, and of course the fallout from the Cody MJF lashing segment, which just was so spectacular and something that I think will still get talked about for quite a bit. So the immediate aftermath of that, I think, will be really interesting to watch.
Did you see any of the opening of the Road to video where they took the lashing angle and put some somber song over top of it to really dramatically impact the effect of Cody and his facial reactions? Slow motion replays, people running down in slow motion to his aid. I mean, they really put this thing over the top.
I haven't seen it. No, but I mean that scene felt like it was, crafted for, like, it felt like it was something out of a movie. So I'm sure it came across pretty well in highlight form too.
Yeah, just a fantastic segment from them, even this many days removed. And then what else do we have here? The WWE announced that 18-year-old Simone Johnson, the daughter of Dwayne Johnson, has reported to the WWE Performance Center. Now, she has been spotted there for a while. I remember when we were at WrestleMania last year, and she was there in the box with like the NXT people, like one section over from us. So, I mean, I think she's been like in and around the Performance Center for quite a while, but this seemed to be the confirmation that they have signed her. She's in the system. But 18 years old, that is extremely young.
It's really young to be deciding, what you want to do for the rest of your life. But I mean, if she's as dedicated as I think, these reports seem to indicate, like, it's clearly something she's thought a long time about and wants to do. And certainly the WWE will be really happy to have her. The ability to just promote her, not just, as The Rock's daughter, but a fourth generation star. If I don't know how she is at all in ring or on the microphone. Expectations are going to be really high, unfortunately, for her. But then you look at somebody like Charlotte, who has to very much live up to that same legacy, and she's done great. So,
and she's going to be the prototype because, you're starting from scratch in the WWE system, which is not what I would advise most talent to go that direction. But I mean, Charlotte is the argument of like a great athlete who went there and she progressed fantastic in that system. But I would say for a lot of people, it's being able to go all over the place and then you land in WWE. But it's she's going this path, and it's going to be.
What about The Rock himself?
I mean, the Rock is another one who he didn't go through the territories. You're going to have your exceptions. With her, though, it's like you're talking about someone, at least Dwayne had the whole athletic background before that as well, going through football and had been through college. And, you're talking about an 18-year-old. I don't know what her athletic background is up until this point, but, you are literally starting from scratch in the WWE's system and being brought up that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just some news from the XFL this past weekend. We talked a little bit about this on Sunday night, but some ratings have come in from the weekend. The debut game on Saturday afternoon did 3.3 million viewers on ABC, and it peaked with 4 million viewers towards the end of the game. Then later on Saturday night, the Los Angeles-Houston game on Fox did a 2.3 overnight rating. And then the Sunday games, we had St. Louis and Dallas doing 2.5 million viewers on ESPN, and I don't know if there's a number yet for the second Sunday game. I don't think there's a rating yet, at least not handy here. All of the games apparently did over like 17,000 people at the various stadiums, so it seemed like it was overall like met pretty positively this week, and the focus becomes of this audience that tuned in this week. You had the natural curiosity, and there seemed to be a healthy amount of it. What is how many people come back next weekend? Because it did seem like it was generally positively received this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What number do you think like these networks would be happy with for week 2?
Well, I mean, the comparison in all the stories was to the AAF last year that debuted, and their first game, which was in prime time, not in the afternoon, did 2.9 million viewers on CBS. So this past weekend's afternoon launch did higher than that. I would say that these numbers are respectable numbers. If they can stay above 2.5 million viewers, especially for those afternoon games, I think that would be, for network television on an afternoon, I think you'd be somewhat satisfied with that. It's a totally different world than what we were talking about with the XFL, the first version of this, where they debuted to like monstrous numbers and then had the big drop off that today, I mean, they would kill for some of those numbers, but it's a totally different landscape now. So, I mean, the television viewers, to me, that is going to be the success or failure of this league, not so much whatever they can draw at these stadiums. It's providing that you have an audience that is willing to watch football outside of the NFL for a sustained period of time. And I think I think week 1 has to be viewed very positively.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you'll watch any XFL at any point this season?
I don't think so. I don't even know how I would watch it. So, probably not.
Just on... Oh, you could get it on TV.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying it's possible you could watch it. You just don't have an interest in watching it, which I can understand.
When you watch Thor Ragnarok, I'll watch an XFL game.
I don't need you to watch an XFL game, but this will obviously be a a big story to watch throughout this season. And the final thing here, we have the list of participants up on the website for the Champion Carnival, which will be starting in April. Maybe the most interesting note, Davey Boy Smith Jr. will be part of the Carnival this year, and a really stacked lineup of participants. So we'll go into that more later this week on Post Pro Res. But the whole list of the 18 participants is up at postwrestling.com. Lots of news, so go catch up on all of it up on the website. So let's go to Raw from Monday night, Ontario, California at the Toyota Arena. And we started things off with Seth Rollins in the ring with AOP and Just Murphy.
Just Murphy, yeah. I said this on SmackDown. I don't mind the name change at all. You know, Murphy sounds at least a little bit cooler than Buddy Murphy, although we're so used to Buddy by this point.
He sounds like the main sidekick to the bad guy in your, 90s action film.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he definitely sounds like he's,
Hey, Murphy.
Yeah, Murph.
I really don't care so much about the name changes. What I crave is the discussion that went on that led to the name change. That's the money. That's what I want to hear. Was there a debate about, well, God damn it, who's gonna boo this guy if he's their buddy? He's no one's buddy.
It probably went something like that, I would assume.
And where does it come from? Just out of this guy. It's not like this guy's been on TV for 2 or 3 weeks as Buddy Murphy. He's been on their television since for how long when you include NXT? I mean, you're going back years.
I feel like usually it comes when it seems like somebody is getting a push, which means Vince is actually paying attention to you. And sometimes I feel like these are good signs. You know, it shows that Vince at least cares enough to, know what your name is even.
I mean, AOP, I don't think they have too many letters to give out at this point. They're no longer authors of pain. They're just AOP, but maybe they'll be like the AP. They'll be the Associated Press or something. They could lose a letter. So Seth has his arms extended. He's in this jacket with some fur on it. This was quite the stylistic choice.
And a hair bun.
Just everything to try and infuriate people. He said his patience is running thin with Kevin Owens and his friends, and they have a message of unity that they would like to share. Owens comes out, and Rollins reminds him of the injuries they delivered to Samoa Joe and Ivar, and Owens says that he's just going to keep fighting, but he is not alone. And out come the Viking Raiders to join him, and they charge the ring. Rollins is left alone as the others all brawl, and this is the setup for Samoa Joe to make his return, entering the ring from behind, applying the coquina clutch until the AOP stop Joe, and then Kevin Owens hits Murphy with the stunner, and they clear out the ring as the baby faces chase off the heels. And that concluded our first segment with Becky Lynch coming out as our transition.
Yeah, Rollins now, I mean, outside of, the changes in his look, he's really playing into the whole Messiah thing. He stands out here with his hands extended like Christ, uses words like martyr and disciple, and sometimes I think it's almost a bit over the top too much,
A bit. Yeah. I find it to be aggravating in a non-heel way.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of taking a concept and making it into a cartoon and a caricature rather than something a bit more nuanced. But I will say, I'm happy at least to see a character change and some sort of evolution from Seth after all these years of, I think, playing that, a very similar type of whiny guy. At least he's trying something new. So I give him that. Crowd reacted really well to Samoa Joe's return. This, of course, also being California.
That's right as well. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of out right now on a definitive reaction on Seth Rollins. I think his stock is significantly dropped from where he was. This to me is not. He does not feel like a main event heel for me right now.
Well, he's better now than when he was a babyface a few months ago.
I don't know.
Oh, I definitely like him better now.
He's not getting. I think he's getting more of a desired reaction. But to me, he does not feel like a main event guy at the moment. To me,
he didn't feel like an effective main event babyface before.
I think there was a period last year where he definitely did.
Not for a while.
Becky is out, and this is our rematch with Asuka, who cut a promo on the way to the ring. And they promote that later on tonight, Rhea Ripley will be on the show. And they had a really lengthy match here. Kairi Sane distracted at one point on the apron, leading to a hip attack, sending Becky to the floor. Becky fought back afterwards. Asuka landed a knee to the face, and Kairi shoved Asuka out of the way and took this forearm from Becky as she came off of the apron. They ended up going through 2 commercial breaks, and the second commercial was set up with an inverted DDT delivered to Asuka on the edge. Afterwards, we get a superplex from Asuka. She gets a 2 count, goes for the armbar, then into a triangle that Becky powerbombs out of. She missed a leg drop off the turnbuckle, and then the Asuka lock is applied. Becky gets out of that, and they go into this fast, rapid-fire sequence of pins with each kicking out and ending with Becky hitting this big Uranagi onto Asuka and getting the pin at 18 minutes and 51 seconds. I thought a really strong match from the two of them.
I thought this match was great. It was a really impressive sprint. Stylistically, I found it very different from your typical WWE match. It felt, at least like in the women's division, you know, it felt as if these two, I would say, like went out there to wrestle the type of match that they actually wanted to wrestle. It was just fast action, no time to rest, which I loved and was kind of shocking for me to see on Raw. Asuka now 2 weeks in a row, I think, has delivered like really stellar matches. I would say like, so some might say show-stealing matches. The match last week with Natalya was great, but you know wasn't met with much of that big of a crowd reaction. But I found it pretty acclaimed online. It was a stiffer match than this one, but the pace of this one was faster. So it feels to me like Asuka, at least for the time being, is able to like wrestle closer to her potential on Raw than she has in the past several months. You know, Becky, I'm not the biggest fan of her in ring, but I thought she was able to keep up really well with Asuka here, and she brings just, you know, so much crowd engagement that, you know, the fans were really into this one, reacted well for everything, much more than the Natalya match last week. So it was a quality of match I really didn't expect to see on Raw, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I thought this was definitely the strongest match on the show tonight. Got a lot of time. Audience was with it too. I think it helped being this long of a match, doing it early as opposed to late in the show, and
it helped that it was Becky.
Yeah. These two worked really, really well together here. So afterwards, Becky has like won this war, and she's standing in the ring, and Shayna Baszler appears and attacks Becky from behind. She gets on top of her with punches on top, applies the Kirifuda clutch, and then releases it to just drop Becky onto the mat. And she proceeds to take out her mouthpiece, and then she climbs on top of Becky, and her teeth come down as she bites the back of Becky's neck. And when she comes out, she looks like a vampire that has just feasted on this woman's flesh. She's got blood all over her face. Becky's back of her neck has blood all coming out of it, and Becky is freaking out afterward, yelling, "Jesus Christ! Jesus Christ!" Which kind of mirrored my words to this angle as well. If you were to ask me, what are the 10 likely scenarios of kicking off Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler for WrestleMania, I don't know if this would have made my top million, but here we are. First of all, what did you think of the angle? I will start there.
I didn't like the ankle at all.
I'm shocked.
I thought it was really ridiculous in theory and totally out of line with Shayna Baszler's character. And above all
like zero connection. Like, this is someone that has been handed Shayna Baszler and has not watched a second of her character and all the little things, like everything about this character, that this segment was the polar opposite of.
Somebody who took a look at her and thought, she looks like a vampire. It just, and above all, it just looked really damn fake. I know, like, fake blood is all the rage these days. We saw it with The Fiend. We saw it with Britt Baker. Sometimes it works. Did not work for me here. Like, it's so damn bright and just so abundant. And above it all, I thought Becky's selling was really bad. Like, her selling of this potentially fatal wound that might have been, like, probably on her jugular.
In fairness to her, I don't know how you sell a portion of your neck being essentially bitten. Like, what did she do here? Like,
She was talking
this
way
was
too
so
much.
silly.
She was selling it as if Will Ospreay would have sold it 2 years ago. And I think Ospreay's gotten over this type of thing. But like, I think, performance at this level for an angle like this requires a lot more, I think. Certainly not over the top screaming, take it easy, all right? Like, who would say that?
What would your response be? Like, seriously, I don't know how you would
start to faint. I would I wouldn't say that much at all. Becky was talking way too much. Like, her selling, I thought, was way too over the top to the point that I thought it was cringeworthy. And what made it worse was that the announcers were giving it the silent treatment as they give all of their serious angles. Like we saw with Edge and Orton. And I thought that just made it worse. It just highlighted, I don't know, how ridiculous it all looked.
But you can't sell this like Edge getting hit with the concerto. Like, you're not unconscious. Like, you've been attacked and bitten.
Yeah, I'm not saying sell it like you're unconscious, but I definitely wouldn't have, been as vocal as Becky is. I don't even know what the real answer is, but I don't think it was this,
I just thought these two were put in such a strange, like, I'm trying to get into their head that I think they wanted to do something shocking to introduce Shayna. And they didn't feel that the Kirifuda clutch and choking her unconscious would be shocking enough. I'm trying to play devil's advocate.
Well, then what I would suggest would be to watch a videotape of Mike Tyson biting Evander Holyfield's ear and watching that reaction. And I certainly didn't hear Evander Holyfield screaming, "Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh, Jesus Christ! Take it easy, will ya?"
Oh, my God. Would it have been so hard? Like, to me, this is really simple that Shayna, like, mounts her and just beats the shit out of her, and and her face is bloody. That to me would have been a great visual.
Shayna has a spot built in for this exact angle with the arm breaking. What would have been so bad about that?
I think they wanted blood here. They wanted some visual to be very shocking for the audience. But this to me was just so over the top, and it's just so counter to Shayna Baszler, who what has separated her in NXT is that she doesn't engage in any of the sports entertainment bullshit. Like, this is a character that's different from everybody else. And this was her introductory program where she's got to have fangs and gnawing at flesh of her victims. I was just, my God, she's going to be like one of those characters that is like an animal by the time we're like 2 months into this.
That would be worst case scenario. I mean, this could just be, I think, their way of, I don't know, getting people talking. And certainly people are talking about it. If that was their intent, then great job. Well done. It just kind of took me right out of it from the beginning. And I thought both for, like, Shayna, certainly she was handicapped, but I didn't think Becky's performance added to it at all.
So Becky is freaking out, and afterwards, she is tended to backstage. She doesn't want to go to the hospital I love this line. She just explains to them, it's just a flesh wound. What? Man. It's just a flesh wound. I hope that's the slogan for WrestleMania.
Like, they spent the whole segment here of Becky refusing to go to the hospital as if to show how tough she is. But she ended up going to the hospital anyway, didn't she?
Yes. But she was going to drive herself. She didn't need a designated driver.
Is it so weak to have an ambulance driver drive you to the ambulance that they couldn't have their, lead female babyface succumb to that?
Well, no, she was exercising the her healthcare plan that she could go get a tetanus shot and be back in record time, and there would be no wait time at the hospital. So it was really a status move.
Job well done to Becky. Does she? So this is private healthcare, I guess, as an independent contractor.
She's an independent contractor, yeah. So maybe
right.
She has like I wonder if she's leaning Bernie or elsewhere.
So if you drove your own ambulance, do you still have to pay for that ambulance?
Oh, that's a great question. Would she have to foot the bill for that? Or was that on the company? Like, the company had an ambulance like that they would have to have on site.
My point is the fact that they spent this whole time to even shoot that. I I wasn't exactly sure, like, what the logic was. Like, to show that Becky is so tough, she should be driving her own ambulance?
Yes. She doesn't need help from anybody.
Then she shouldn't need to go to the hospital, period.
Well, she acknowledged she had to go to the hospital. She had a chunk of her skin caught in Shayna's teeth.
I guess so, but I think it's such a small, silly, insignificant thing to even need to address that somebody, should, like, that it would be a sign of weakness to be driven to the hospital.
It's just, they love their baby faces driving vehicles. It's a go-to for them. And then they arrive back at the building in the driving.
Yeah, it's a lot of traffic.
In California, no less, yeah. Like, I would think, like, this was probably, I mean, maybe it was right around the corner. Did she come back in the same, did she have to pay for parking? Did she get the same ambulance to come back, or did she have to get into another ambulance?
I don't know. Maybe, they must have rented it to her twice. But how would she even know where the ambulance was? Or, sorry, where the hospital was?
Yeah, she better not have been, like, on her phone while she was driving. That would be really dangerous.
I don't think she would have had her phone. She was, like, in her ring gear.
That's right, yeah. So, maybe she just drove around for a while. I mean, she knew she had, like, 2.5 hours until she had to get back here, and maybe she just, like, rolled the window down and was, like, asking pedestrians which way to the hospital as they watched this crazy woman in wrestling gear with a flesh wound in the back of their neck asking for directions.
Or she could have just let the ambulance driver do his damn job and drive her to the hospital. I mean, really inefficient.
By you pointing this out, she definitely created way more work for herself by being stubborn.
Oh, definitely.
Mojo Rawley and Riddick Moss versus the Street Profits. The Street Profits cut a promo saying that Mojo Rawley rode Rob Gronkowski's coattails. This line got no reaction from this crowd. They started the match. There was a spinebuster and a splash that the Street Profits called the cash out, and they won in 49 seconds, pinning Riddick Moss. So Mojo is upset with Moss, and then as he's left in the ring, Moss cradles him and pins Mojo to win the 24/7 title, which was suspended during the match, but afterward, it was fair game. So Riddick Moss ran through the crowd with the 24/7 title. And what a launch this is to the next chapter of the 24/7 lineage.
Yes. So, Riddick Moss getting his name up there on a Wikipedia page. Adding former WWE champion to his credentials. Great. That's cool. It's just the same old, isn't it, with this 24/7 title? It's just a different person.
MVP is back this week, and he's hosting the MVP Lounge. And he says that he never should have left. And I love this line. His guest tonight single-handedly, or should I say single-leggedly, eliminated Brock Lesnar. And his guest is Drew McIntyre, who comes down, and we've got the two security guys to enter the lounge, and Drew just knocks these assholes over and walks past them.
Yeah, I mean, he's big.
He is. I guess this is the way they're going with Drew, kind of like the high school jock.
Yeah, pretty much. Vince's archetype.
MVP says that these two go way back, and Drew says, sorry, every time someone says WrestleMania, I have to point to the sign. So he's almost making a joke out of this sign pointing deal. MVP tells Drew to focus on the prize and don't listen to all those people talking behind your back. MVP then mentions that there's some who believe he's not ready to be champion, but those people are unimportant. We're going to change that. And Drew says, what's this about we? Did we win the Royal Rumble? And MVP notes that his in-ring days might be over, but Drew McIntyre needs someone like him, essentially, to be his manager. And he starts healing on the crowd. Drew says, I don't need an external brain thinking for him, or someone talking for me, or a business partner kissing his ass. And MVP says, I only kick ass. And this leads to Drew hitting him with the Glasgow kiss and then doing the countdown that everyone got into. And he hit the Claymore, sending MVP flying over the couch. And then Drew did his ball-in move to end the segment. I thought Drew was really great in this segment. There is a lot of this kind of role as the big baby face going into WrestleMania that the audience, maybe for some, were not ready for at the Rumble. I think that's a tough role to be in, and I think Drew has done very well in these non-wrestling segments that people are getting into this guy.
I think so too. The reactions were very strong, even just upon entrance here. Even just upon mention of him has been really strong. So I thought the segment was great. I thought MVP was awesome. You know, the last appearance he had again in a match against Rey Mysterio, I thought was a good performance from MVP. It didn't leave me thinking that there was a role for him on this current roster. But seeing him talk here, do a segment like this, like I think the higher level of acting that he demonstrates here compared to, I think, the vast majority on this roster, I definitely feel like there's a role for him as a mouthpiece and maybe even occasional wrestler on this roster. He was great. He was
very good.
Not only in like his slow building of like, you know, antagonism of the crowd and Drew. Like he started off kind of as a babyface, but then like would drop like really subtle things to, you know, piss off the crowd and then eventually piss Drew off. I thought he sold his physicality really well as well. You know, not just taking the Glasgow kiss, but then doing the fall over the couch with the Claymore. It was great. This I thought was a much more effective week for Drew than last to me. Unlike last week with Mojo, I thought Drew's victim really generated heat and really made you want to see Drew like beat the shit out of him, which I can't really say for Mojo last week.
There's definitely a role for MVP on air as some kind of mouthpiece for somebody, even doing this MVP Lounge segment until they find, you know, a potential role for him. I think that you definitely have something with MVP. He did not. It really felt like he had some leeway too in his promo. It did not sound like WWE speak. It very much sounded like him, and I think that's a rarity at times. Like he sounded like a normal individual. He sounded like MVP here, and I think that's very important to have in this kind of a role. So yeah, I would definitely be exploring this more. And let's just cut to the chase and get this guy with Bobby Lashley.
Oh man, that's a great idea. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, like, on some level, this might have been sort of an audition for the guy. You know, I'm sure they were looking at it like that. I'm sure he was certainly performing like it was. I think he definitely, like, he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and, you know, it helped Drew McIntyre a lot in this segment, so I think that's a real positive for MVP. Both guys, I thought, came off really well during this segment. And that countdown thing, as silly as it is, that crowd just loves doing that countdown.
Man, it works, dude. Like I thought it was so
simple,
stupid.
Yep.
It was so stupid, but like I've said before, we are stupid people. Like humans are just dumb. You lead us to the slaughter, we'll follow, man. But you know, it's part of like WWE's thing. You know, Shawn has his stomping, Hogan has like the cupping of the ear. Now I see Aleister Black trying to do it as well with like, as he lifts somebody for the Black Mass, he's lifting his arms as well to like, I guess, get the crowd into it. And that might work too.
Angel Garza was out with Zelina Vega and they were set to take on Cedric Alexander, and they recapped the attack of Rey Mysterio, and no real update on Rey Mysterio beyond showing the angle, and not on TV tonight.
Yeah. Hear anything?
No, I don't know what the story is. Like he was, you know, they did the angle last week that would suggest that he's going to be off TV for at least some period of time, because it's the same thing you did with Andrade. So I would imagine both are going to be off for, well, we know Andrade's off for at least another 2 weeks. So maybe Rey comes back at some point around then, but it seems like he would be coming back for, like Rey, you have coming back for Angel Garza at this point.
Yeah.
So eventually, so they recap the attack. Humberto Carrillo ran out to attack Garza, and He's pulled off by officials, and then we get into the match with Cedric Alexander. Alexander did get some offense here. He got caught on his baseball slide drop kick and is driven onto the floor. There's a springboard into a drop kick from Garza. Pants come off, and the wing clipper for the win in 2 minutes and 36 seconds.
Can't say this was much of a match this week, certainly compared to last. But, decent second appearance for Garza. I feel like they've really figured it out with Humberto. They're keeping his appearances very short and full of fire, and Humberto's been doing a really good job with that. And I think that's been working well. I can't say this at this point is like a super hot program, but it's a fine debut.
Charlie was backstage with Rhea Ripley, and she's not waiting for anything from Charlotte Flair. She gets what she wants. They plugged the match with Bianca Belair for Sunday, and then in walks Sarah Logan, which ended with Rhea Ripley asking, "Who are you?" Which, in fairness, there were probably several viewers asking the same question Rhea Ripley was.
Yeah. She started it off by saying, "I'm Rhea Ripley. Who are you?"
Sarah never answered her.
Until she got out of the
yes,
front.
It was a delayed introduction.
I guess I was just watching this and seeing Rhea Ripley in a segment like this, and it was immediately apparent to me that I wasn't watching NXT Rhea Ripley. Like I was watching WWE Raw Rhea Ripley. Like I was watching the form of Rhea Ripley, maybe like I don't know, a clone of Rhea Ripley, but like with the brain of somebody else. Like an alien, like impersonating Rhea Ripley who can shapeshift and doing a Rhea Ripley.
There was a line later that was just brutal that we'll get to with Raw Ripley, as we'll call her.
Raw Ripley, great.
They promoted Bayley and Carmella for this SmackDown this Friday on SmackDown in Vancouver. They're in Canada this week.
Yeah.
I think next week Raw is in Winnipeg, actually.
Oh, they're doing a whole Canadian tour. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Bobby Lashley and Lana were with Sarah Schreiber backstage. Lana told Sarah to have some respect, cut a promo on Ricochet, who's facing Lashley tonight, said that Ricochet got lucky, stole the win, and Lashley is going to reintroduce Ricochet to reality and doesn't think he will make it to Super Showdown.
They also kept pointing out how Ricochet stole Bobby's dream, his dream of facing Brock Lesnar. They brought that up, or at least Lana brought that up several times, so it definitely makes me feel like they'll be getting to that match at some point.
So Sarah Logan comes out to introduce herself to everybody. She is Sarah Logan and challenged Rhea Ripley. So Ripley comes out, followed by Charlotte Flair, who proceeded to watch the match on the ramp, and Ripley is constantly watching Charlotte as she hits Sarah with these short arm clotheslines and wins with the Riptide in 39 seconds. So that was Sarah Logan. So Ripley.
So sorry, there was that. But like Sarah Logan also said, beyond I'm Sarah Logan, she also said, "I'll defend my turf by any means necessary." As if like is she like an actual wolf? Is she like a human?
Not anymore.
Wolf?
That gimmick's been taken by Shayna. Shayna's the animal.
I guess so. Yeah.
Maybe Shayna's gonna have like a faction of the
4 wolf men, wolf women.
Yeah. They're like gonna be from the wild. They'll just attack their opponents like prey.
Yeah, there'll be something like the rabid hyenas or something.
So Ripley asks Charlotte for an answer, and there was like this painful line that Ripley is going to call her a royal pain in the, and Charlotte cuts her off, and it was just so goofy.
So bad.
Oh, she was going to say ass. Oh, I hate these lines. Just the worst. Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that I think on paper might look okay, but like in execution, it just feels so forced and so unnatural.
You've got to slow down your delivery too. So it's like, you're such a royal pain in the...
Whoa, John.
God. Anyway, so no answer. We got to get through the match on Sunday, and then this program can officially, I guess, start building.
The dialogue really was awful.
Yeah, it was bad, very bad here. Yeah. They did the LA announcement for WrestleMania with the tagline of WrestleMania goes Hollywood, so that's going to be the theme of next year's WrestleMania.
Well, I know everybody's looking forward to potential parody trailers, which I hope they bring back.
Yeah, I would think that with such ideas like the Irish Man and Dives Out, I mean, I think maybe they could they should have a fresh batch by next year. You would think, you could Shayna Baszler could play Parasite maybe after her angle tonight.
Yeah, sure. Or Twilight, one of those.
Charlie is with Ricochet, and Ricochet said, "I have never backed down from a fight before, and I don't plan to tonight. It's been my dream to become WWE champion for the last 17 years. They just think of me as this scrawny kid. Well, this scrawny kid has something that's going to make him last longer than anybody ever." I don't know what that meant. The crowd was drowning him out with a Rusev Day chant, and he says no one, not even Bobby Lashley, will stop him from walking, limping, or crawling into Super Showdown.
Yeah. The whole time I was watching this, they often do these interviews in Gorilla right before the guys come out. And I have to imagine how nerve-wracking this might be, because you have to recite all these lines on live TV, probably right in front of Vince, all your other bosses just sitting inches away from you. Maybe they all have to do that anyway when they get pre-produced, but who knows? But anyway, not an easy task for Ricochet to get through. I think all of this. He's it's coming out fine. Doesn't make you feel a thing though. That's just sort of next level, I guess.
There was a tweet sometime on Monday where some fan asked, "Why isn't WWE using Ali anymore?" And some fan responded, "He can't cut a promo." And Ricochet quote tweeted it and wrote, "Nah, that's me, homie."
Yeah, I mean, it's
points for self-awareness, I guess.
He recognizes it's a weakness, but who can I guess you have to be pretty special in order to be able to.
It's hard to do
style.
These WWE style promos are hardly for everyone. Some people can adapt. This guy cannot. It's I'm sure naturally in his own everyday conversation, he's probably a great personality. But this is not the arena for it with these 60-second WWE promos. They just don't mix well with him.
And who's the guy who said Ali couldn't cut a promo? He's one of the best promos that they have.
That's a crazy criticism of Ali.
Oh my God. Yeah, Ali's great.
Charlotte's going to be on Backstage Tuesday night, and they state that Becky is on her way back to the arena. Randy Orton comes out, and he takes his time getting into the ring, and he says he still owes an explanation for what he did to Edge. And he goes to say that it hurt him more than it did Edge, which has got to be factually untrue in storyline. Matt Hardy interrupts him. 1999 Matt comes out, and he wants to know why Randy did it. And he said, "Everyone here knows the story of the history between me and Edge." And there was part of me that started thinking, does everybody know the history? Because that is 15 years ago that happened. And I got my answer because this crowd started chanting for Lita right after this. And I don't know if that's a good sign or a sign of your audience has just gotten older and they all remember this stuff from 15 years ago.
Yeah. I suppose this was such a big story at the time and such a part of, I think, both men's connection to each other that
if you were around then.
Yeah, but they also, TLC is even older than that. And that's something they always, harken back to.
Yeah, but this Edge Matt Hardy story, I mean, when was the last time they have brought that up to a viewer that may have started watching WWE in the last few years?
Well, I don't doubt that, like, maybe those people were probably a little confused, but nonetheless, it's like, it's not one of those stories that, like, what was he supposed to have said here? Yeah, Edge and I have history where he cheated on my longtime girlfriend in real life, and there's really no time to get into all that, right? Like, if you want this to sound like a realistic dialogue, you kind of have to, like, infer that people know what is between these two.
No, and I don't even disagree that at times, like, I argue about, like, spoon feeding your audience. Like, to me, if you don't know what this story is, well, you can now go and figure that out for yourself here. But I do think it's more so just, it confirms, like, this idea, though, that your audience, when you look at the average viewing age, like, it's just gotten older, and that is your audience right now. It is not. I think it's more so like there aren't that many fans that probably are unaware of this, which tells you about new fans you're not creating, in my opinion.
I think the challenge is to even keep the older fans now at this point.
Well, they're chanting for Lita here, and he continues on. He says that there was one time where there was no one on earth that Matt Hardy hated more than Edge. But at one time, they were best friends with Christian and Jeff Hardy, and the four of them, they would share hotel rooms to save money. They wanted to live their dreams, and they revolutionized the ladder match at No Mercy in 1999. And the crowd starts chanting TLC. He mentions how they invented the match, but they didn't do it alone. They did it together, the four of them, and I guess with the Dudleys as well. He said his pain and disdain for Edge was all gone after Edge retired because the two of them have a similar passion for this industry, and he could not imagine if this was taken away before he was ready. And throughout the years, Edge would always ask, what if? What if? And then he made this miraculous return at the Royal Rumble, and Randy took it away, and he asks, what in the hell is wrong with you? And Randy goes to hit him with the RKO, but Matt fights him off, drills him with the microphone, and fights back. Orton then shoves him out of the corner, hits the RKO, and then proceeds to get two chairs, brings them into the ring, and lays out Matt with a concerto. And first of all, awesome promo from Matt Hardy. And I thought Randy Orton's reaction was great too in all of this. Like, Randy is just in his zone right now, but this was a phenomenal segment from Matt Hardy, and I really wonder if this was designed to be potentially the last we see of Matt Hardy.
I wonder too. Yeah, because I mean, I feel like one of these things you don't really come back from. Even in
he can't come back before Edge does. Like, if Edge is out this amount of time, like, Matt's got to be. This is like the Rey Mysterio angle last week after Andrade. Like, you did this angle where you have the precedent. So I wonder if this is kind of one of those things where if he doesn't end up re-signing, then this is our write-off of him.
If it's a write-off, I mean, what a way to go out for Matt Hardy. I think delivering the best promo he's cut in years. Certainly, I would say the most significant thing he's done in a very long time in this company. I don't know. Would you say like that Ultimate Deletion? I thought this was better than that. I thought this was better.
This was such a different kind of promo. Like those were so different. Like, this to me was this was just a great promo from
when I say Ultimate Deletion, I'm talking about the Bray Wyatt thing, not like the stuff he did in TNA. Like I can't really think of anything outside of that initial pop he got at WrestleMania that I really think back to as anything significant in Matt Hardy's WWE run. And I thought this was amazing. This was like hard. Like, this whole show, I thought, like, with the standouts to me were, at least promo-wise, it was certainly the veterans. Between MVP, between Matt Hardy, like, I don't know if it's the fact that they have, a bit more leeway to go out there and make their own verbiage, or if they're just that much better at, like, reading Vince's words. I don't know, or whoever the writer's words are. But, like, they definitely shined. Great performances all around. I wonder at this point who else will get involved. Certainly, if it's like a story of Orton going after all of these guys. Well, I mean, come on, we got to see Christian show up at some point. Devon's back there. What is the status of Jeff Hardy at the moment? Oh, I guess he's not really doing anything with wrestling, but yeah.
I mean, Jeff's still recovering from that from the surgery he had last summer, but he could be utilize here. Like Christian, I don't think he's going to do anything physical. So I would be surprised if Christian had any involvement in the lead up to this. But doing a promo segment with Christian seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, and like, you know, they need a lot of stuff to drag out the weeks, and I think going through with that whole roster, like, it would be weird for Christian not to do something. It would be weird for Beth not to maybe even have an interaction at some point. Not to say you should have the procession of people until Edge is ready to come back, and when he does, that's going to be an enormous pop when Edge finally comes back. If you build this up for a while. Like, keep him off long enough that people are doubting he's coming back. Hopefully you can get that with your audience. At this point, just
tremendous.
Just keep feeding Randy, because he's just like, he's on fire right now.
So discussing Matt Hardy, because I don't know when he'll come up again. You know, with his deal, you know, coming up soon. I mean, could you imagine like a scenario like he's going to get an enormous offer to stay?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? I don't know if I would be able to walk away from that kind of an offer that he's going to get at his age in this thing. Like, that is an enormous passion you have for your creative freedom to walk away from whatever the company is going to offer him, which I would think would be probably just like a phenomenal offer on paper for this stage of his career to be receiving.
Certainly, it's talking about. Well, we don't know how much AEW is willing to offer him, right? I guess if they have the leverage,
I can't imagine it's going to be near what WWE is. I would be shocked.
Yeah, maybe not. But at the same time, it's like, the guy talks so much about like, wanting creative freedom and wanting to own your own character and things like that. If you sign to the WWE, you're not going to be doing much except, the occasional job match, maybe a producer role in the future, something like that.
Certainly.
Or do you want that one last run on top?
Yeah, I mean, the guy looks to be he's gotten himself in like great shape. Like, he looks great. It seems like a guy that certainly wants to have that final run. So it's one thing to talk about leaving, but when you see that offer in front of you, that's very hard to walk away from that. When, you're looking at, I could be one injury away from all of this ending. This is guaranteed money. I've got a family. It's a very tough decision to make, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went to the back. Sarah Schreiber was with Ruby Riott, and she said that Liv Morgan was her best friend, and she knows the real Liv Morgan. She's a puppy dog, and she might be able to change her hair and her clothes, and says that she will strike when she's ready. Well, Liv will always be a follower who I had to babysit and needed to put in her place. She strikes when I say so. And I think Byron encapsulated this best by saying, that's a cryptic explanation.
So she destroyed a friendship with her best friend because her best friend felt
decided
like
that she can think for herself.
Yeah. I thought it was a pretty weak explanation for a heel turn, and not to mention the thing was executed way too soon. I think really I would have just paired these two up as a tag team for a bit, maybe have them challenge for the tag team belts even, and then have Ruby turn several months later to just make me, care at least a little. I just found that they were really blowing through it right now. The explanation was no good. The turn really was no good. And I think coming out of it, it's like a feud between supposed best friends that I feel zero emotional weight for.
Can you imagine if this was what they did with Cody and MJF?
Yes.
You know what I mean? You've got
to break out on his own.
You've got to build up the connection before you do a turn, so people are legitimately sad when the turn comes, because you've become fans of these people and you can see a kinship between them. And to do it like this, it's just the cliche turn. So from there, we go to Aleister Black, Akira Tozawa. This one, A state of affairs for Akira Tozawa, where he finds himself in this role.
Really, all the 205 guys,
Yep.
right? I mean, any smaller guy who gets called up, I mean, essentially, this is their role right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, not much to this. Tozawa got a missile drop kick before he was hit with a pop-up knee and the Black Mass. 1:28. But the main event of this entire show was Aleister Black getting the microphone. And if you'll indulge me, Wai.
Yes, please. I'm looking forward to this.
I have enjoyed these past few weeks being able to share these intimate moments with you. I appreciate each and every person here tonight because that is what it's all about. I know a thing or two about rebelling against paradise, but I'm starting to feel like an animal inside of a cage. So he then proceeds to sit down as the lights are dimmed for the poet. So for those of you that venture out here, know that it's not me who is in there with you. It is you who shall be trapped inside of this metaphoric cage with me. Dude, I don't know what this guy is talking about. It gets crazier every week.
Can you repeat some of those? Let's try to do our
let's
best
break
here.
this down. Let's break this down, okay? I know a thing or two about rebelling against paradise, but I'm starting
against paradise. Okay, what does that mean? Rebelling against paradise.
Like a wonderful upbringing that he just felt was too constraining to his outward personality, to his likes, to the people he hung out with.
Yeah, so yeah, he feels like life was maybe too easy and he got too comfortable. So he's rebelling against it. Okay.
But I'm starting to feel like an animal inside of a cage. Okay, maybe we can tackle that. Now here's the difficult one. Know that it's not me who is in there with you. It is you who shall be trapped inside of this metaphoric cage with me. So that is a direct opposite statement. It is not me who is in there with you. It is you who is trapped inside with me.
Right. Okay.
I'm not with you. You are trapped with me. I don't know, dude.
So I guess he's saying you're not free. You're not actually free, you and I. We're not free. And he's not just here. In fact, we are trapped.
We are both animals inside of a cage, but I am the Shayna Baszler of these animals.
Right. Okay. So are we all rebelling against paradise? I just don't know how those two link. I know a thing or two about rebelling against paradise, but I feeling like I'm being trapped in a cage.
In spite of all his rage.
That's the other show.
Right.
Fuck, man. If you have a theory, everybody, please weigh in. I think we need a whole team. I think we need a whole investigative unit to try to decipher these words.
I don't have an answer, but if we play sliding doors and they had gone the Aleister Black direction instead of Drew McIntyre, to hear this guy waxing poetic on Brock Lesnar and Brock having to react to him, that would have been some fine television.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be great.
Mr. Lesnar, I see that you have been inside the literal cage while my metaphoric cage is going to entrap you at WrestleMania.
See, I think it would be a promo battle between he and Paul Heyman, which I think would be interesting because you'd be... I'm sure somebody... Like, when Heyman does this type of thing, it makes sense. I understand the point, but with Aleister, it's just... I feel like sometimes he's playing like, maybe he's like dyslexic and he's just reading all the words in different order. Maybe it's all words that could be rearranged to make up a proper sentence.
This dude should just be kicking guys' heads off their shoulders. I think they're getting way too complicated with a very easy kick-ass character that doesn't need a whole lot of deep thought put into him.
I agree. I mean, I think it's good to say something just to, like, you know, show off your personality, but it doesn't need to be anything complicated. And this is the most complicated dialogue I think we have on the show. We either have like dialogue that's way too stupid or dialogue that's way too complex.
The ambulance returns and Becky walks into the arena. She comes in after the break. Her neck is all bandaged up and she insinuates that she was given painkillers. So she calls out Shayna. You want to sink your little rat's teeth into my flesh just to get my attention? There's your soundbite for the WrestleMania promo package. She says that she has run through all of them, made them pay. She will break Baszler down week by week, and she better find Becky before Becky finds her. And to her credit, I thought this was a very good promo coming off of our ridiculous angle from earlier. And I think for those that kind of complained about the self-doubting Becky Lynch going into the Asuka program, that I didn't have a big problem with. This is like the kick-ass Becky Lynch that I think was part of like her initial appeal for so many people. And at least it was a means to an end to get here. And I'm hoping that this kind of course corrects itself where we now just get Becky and Shayna, the two badasses that are going to face off at WrestleMania, and we get no more teeth and chunks of necks being ripped out of their bodies.
Her sense of confidence is her main act. Like this type of, overconfident, the man promo is like what makes the character the man. So, she continues to do that great. I liked it. I could do without all that other shit in between of her fighting to go to an ambulance, driving back to an ambulance. Why do something so elaborate? Have her, okay, even if you have to have somebody bite her the neck like a vampire, you could do that. Just have her go away for 2 hours and then come back and cut at the promo. Why did you need all that bullshit in the middle?
It's just their way to make her feel like this badass. It's
Oh, she's so badass. She could drive. Wow.
I mean, maybe she was driving in standard as well, so maybe that's a trait.
Do you mean? Wow. I don't know. Are ambulances like that?
I've never driven an ambulance, so.
See, I figure you wouldn't want that extra, skill, like that extra obstacle if you're driving something so.
Can you imagine the vignettes? Like we cut to Becky and she's got like her map out and from the glove compartment. It's like, where is this damn hospital? She gets lost in California.
Yeah.
Final match was Seth Rollins, Murphy, and AOP.
We also had a new match announcement for Super Showdown.
Did we?
Two-way mountain gauntlet.
I totally missed this. I must have fast-forwarded through the commercial and missed this.
This was a new gauntlet match they announced, and some of the participants, I believe, are like, what is it here? It looks like AJ Styles, R-Truth, Rusev, Andrade making a return, Bobby Lashley, Eric Rowan. So this is all. Well,
that's notable that AJ Styles is back already.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Rusev will be there.
Yeah, it was thought like he was going to try and be back in time for WrestleMania, and it sounds like he's made a tremendous recovery if he's being advertised for Saudi Arabia.
Yes, and also Andrade, of course, his suspension is set to expire before that. So
right.
This is for the Two-Wake Mountain Trophy, and the Two-Wake Mountain is a series. It's like a notable landmark in Saudi Arabia. So that's what it's all about.
R-Truth is in this.
Oh, yeah. He's got a 24 documentary.
Yeah, I think that will actually be really interesting.
Yeah.
So, main event, Rollins went to speak. They all attacked him, and everyone brawled all over the place. They got the heat on Kevin Owens for a long period of time, built up to him tagging Joe, who ran wild on Seth Rollins, hit him with a Manhattan drop, senton. Then the Viking Raiders dump AOP to the floor, setting up a triple tope suicida with the Viking Raiders and Joe to the floor. Everyone takes turns laying each other out. We're down to Rollins and Joe. Owens does a dive off the top to everybody on the floor, and Joe applies the coquina clutch. Murphy, though, is the legal man with the blind tag, and Joe releases the coquina clutch, applies it onto Murphy, but the referee is dealing with AOP when Murphy taps out, and Rollins capitalizes, stomp to Joe, and Murphy, just Murphy, beats Joe.
Well, kind of. I mean,
with
like Murphy tapped out, had the visionary tap, and then it was Rollins that, hit the stomp mid-choke. So I thought this was a really good WWE-style multi-man match. They certainly have their formulas down, and I think the crowd reacted really well for it. I would say it was so textbook that it came complete with your expected result of the hometown guy losing here, as well as the 205 guy taking the visionary fall, not necessarily looking great out of it either. But the match was really good. These four, I think, are great together. I would really love to see more variants of these 8 together. Gimmick matches, elimination matches. They've all got great heavyweight chemistry with one another.
Yeah, I really like this episode of Raw overall, save for the silly Shayna Baszler angle, which I think that could drag a lot of people. That was the biggest thing on the show, so that wasn't a positive. But I thought some of the promos were very good on this show. I really enjoyed Becky and Asuka together. I think they're doing a good job with the WrestleMania matches that they're pushing. I think Randy Orton and Matt Hardy was a great segment together. Drew McIntyre really is starting to feel like a top babyface on the show. And the biggest thing for Raw, it's the pacing of Raw has gotten way better. Like this show moves a lot faster than it was for the longest time.
It's true. It has become a better show. I think, feel the drag. And I think maybe some of that has to do with perhaps a lack of Rusev and Lashley stuff at this time, at this point in time. So I think there were some really strong promo segments with Matt Hardy and MVP in particular. A really great match in Asuka versus Becky Lynch. Good main event as well, save for perhaps the finish, but that's what they do. I really didn't like a lot of the stuff that they were doing with Rhea Ripley on this show. Mm-hmm. I thought that was kind of weak with just her dialogue and how different she sounded. Was not a fan of the Shayna Baszler thing, but you know what? I could see plenty of people actually enjoying that just for the spectacle of it. So for me, more of a mixed bag of a show, but I think there were some really high strengths as well.
All right, let's go to the forum here. And tonight's show got a 6.82 from the forum voters. Paul from New Jersey writes, the Monday Night Messiah is slowly replacing the big dog for most annoying phrase on WWE television. With that being said, I really enjoyed the show overall. Becky Asuka was great, and the aftermath was greater. Who bites people? Thoroughly enjoyed Becky's selling. Despite being booked in... That'll raise ways higher.
I disagree.
Despite being booked in some of the worst promo segments in the company, the Street Profits not only received a pop, there was a "We Want the Smoke" chant. Good on them. Ruby Riott cut a killer promo. MVP sounded really good, and Riddick Moss won with a 7 count. Overall, a solid show that advanced storylines and had some good matches. I'm a Sarah Logan guy. 7.5.
Finally, Andrew from Cape Breton says, I thought it was... We only have 2 pieces of feedback for this, if that tells you anything about this edition of Raw. Andrew from Cape Breton says, I thought it was very appropriate that they had the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie sponsor a match with Ricochet. They have a lot in common. They're both fast, they both do cool spinning moves, and both are much better when they're not talking. Raw was a pretty good show tonight and seemed to flow as well as a 3-hour Raw can. The weirdest part was the zombie Shayna attack. They definitely have weird ways of getting blood. Not to be all back in my day, kids, but back in my day, kids, Bret Hart would hide his blade jobs and just say, oops, hard way. We need more magicians in wrestling like that. I wanted to look up a kayfabe reason as to why you would bite somebody at the top of the spine, but I couldn't find any. Maybe she was giving Becky a hickey and it went horribly wrong. Lots of people did look great tonight, like MVP, Angel Garza, and Rhea Ripley, so 7 out of 10 show. I know I mentioned this on Twitter, but I would love to hear an Aleister Black promo done in the voice of Zack Sabre Jr.
I got to see his latest promo with after the Osaka card.
Oh, how was it?
The highlight was after he beats Will Ospreay to prove he's the best wrestler, the best British wrestler. I expect to get a call from the Queen to tell me I'm the best British wrestler, and I'm going to tell her, piss off, I know I'm the best.
He's awesome. So good. You're so good at it.
His are my favorite promos in wrestling right now.
Well,
no one tops Zach. Aleister Black has a special place in my heart, but Zach is still number one.
Okay, if you're talking, I guess, impressions, yeah. But I mean, the Hiromu Takahashi promo, if you want to call it that you talked about last night that I finally checked out was a must-see, really.
Like, dude, that promo was for you. That, to me, was... I watched that. I was like, you, of all people, were going to love this thing. It was amazing. Do you think he did that off the top of his head, like those lyrics? Or do you think he had something envisioned? Because that was almost too good to just be off the top of your head. Completely,
yeah. I mean... I would have to imagine maybe he had this idea beforehand and just decided to execute it here because it was just like he went on and on and on. But, I mean, you know, I wouldn't doubt that he would have sick freestyle abilities, that guy. So
you had the best observation. You had the best observation, though, the star of that. Like, Hiromu's the star, but that segment is so much better because of Sugabayashi.
Oh, he's the best. He's like the most straight man like that you could possibly get for these things. And anytime Hiromu's doing something, just to see his reaction to like, he'll never show teeth ever. Okay, that's like that would be like him losing his shit if he ever.
The anti-Shayna.
No, yeah, that's right. Like so, like the slightest thing would be just a smirk. If you can at least get him to smirk, I think that's that man enjoying life.
So some phenomenal promos going on in New Japan, if you go seek those out. All right, that's going to wrap up the show. Tuesday night, Wai and Nate are here with the MCU review of Black Panther, so you can go check that out. I'll be back Wednesday night with Wai for Rewind to Dynamite. Go catch the entire schedule, loaded shows coming up this week at postwrestling.com. So for Wai, I am John. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. Protect your neck